Well, all right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Money Wisdom Podcast, powered by Johnson Brunetti. I'm Nick Colantuono, certified financial planner with Johnson Brunetti up here in our Boston offices, joined today by my colleague, Jake Dozer. Jake, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, Jake Dozer is my name, certified financial planner as well in our Connecticut offices. And I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Always, Jake. Everybody knows your name. Everybody knows who you
I
are.
don't know about all that.
But hey, it's worth mentioning before we get into this action-packed episode today, it's important to remind everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss just any of our awesome content in the future. Information is power. So you folks are all in the right place. And Jake, talk about a bit of a bombshell. We've got election results, don't we?
We do indeed. And what we have found out very recently, we're trying to make a timely podcast, is President Trump has won his re-election campaign this year. And obviously there is impacts with that. Obviously, this is on everyone's news feeds. Everyone is seeing this in their newspaper, in their phones, on their computers this morning. And a lot of our clients are asking, what does this mean for me? And the campaign trails are oftentimes fraught with promises, empty or otherwise. And that's true on both sides of the campaign trail. Don't get me wrong. I think we all recognize that. But obviously, as we're going forward, one of the things we have to be asking ourselves is, what does this mean for my plan? What does this mean for the economy? What does this mean for the stock market? What does this mean for my taxes? What does this mean for my future generation? What does this mean for inheritances and all things and everything in between? So, Nick, what do you think are the most important things that we should be aware of or cognizant of as we're going forward with this topic?
Well, look, Jake, I mean, it was one heck of an election cycle. Polarizing politics is kind of top of mind right now, and it was impossible not to turn on the TV and hear about, this is what happens if Harris gets elected. This is what happens if Trump gets elected. But I don't know about you. I mean, I woke up this morning, I put my pants on, I took my shower, I did everything the same way I did it. It kind of feels like a normal day. So what we don't know is kind of what the specifics of any sort of policy changes will be. But I think probably the primary benefit of Trump back in office is that from a tax standpoint, we at least know that from the federal estate tax brackets, at least for the clients that we're working with, kind of middle of the bracket, tax filers, the likely scenario is things will be kind of remaining the same. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty that has been taken out of the road ahead, especially from a tax planning standpoint, given that Donald Trump is back in office. And yes, he was not in office for the last 4 years, but his tax brackets and tax rates were intact from of course, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act that he enacted when he was in office, obviously 6-7 years ago. So I think that's a little bit of some uncertainty getting taken out of the air.
All right. So Nick, now that we are, aware of these election results and they're in front of us, what does that mean? Where do we go from here?
Well, look, Jake, I think there's no secret that the financial landscape just becomes increasingly volatile, especially as markets react to uncertainty, especially around politics, political results. So here we are, right? Now we know what this road ahead is somewhat going to look like. And what does that mean as far as changes in tax policies, Social Security, healthcare expenses, really all the aspects of our clients' financial plans? And it's important to know that these changes that we could be seeing are undoubtedly going to have impact on retirement strategies that we're using for our clients. And I think the value of the work that we do here at Johnson Brunetti for our clients is we're never really just going to be out there reacting to news. We've had plans in place for these what ifs, regardless of who were to get elected. So again, it's just critical to be prepared, if not over prepared for whatever this road ahead looks like.
Right. And I think one of the things that I encourage a lot of people to consider is the data. Now, history, I've heard it said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And so what that means is that the history and historical market experiences are no indication of what's going to happen in the future. But at the same time, historical experiences are the only lens through which we can view the world. And so with that being said, I think it's important to remember for folks is that the stock market year over year, January to December, over the past 100 years, is up about 75% of the time, regardless of who's in office. Furthermore, January to December in presidential election years, I'm not talking about during a campaign year, but January to December, the stock market is up 82% of the time in
Wow.
presidential election years. It doesn't mean that stock market years for presidential election years are not more volatile stock market years, but it means that beginning to end, they're up 82% of the time. I was just talking to our colleague Heath Grossman about that, who's one of the partners here at Johnson Benetti. And so the reality is that when you have a well thought through plan, you don't have to react. You don't have to feel like, oh, I'm going to jump in and out of the market. That's a dangerous game. Warren Buffett famously said, the most famous investor out there, arguably, is that it's not about timing the market. It's about time in the market. Now, does that mean we need the entirety of one's portfolio in the market? Of course not. Generally, I would say in almost all cases with clients at Johnson Benetti, we do not have clients all in the market because you need an alternative source of income in those bad stock market years. You need some safety to buffer that market exposure and things of that nature. But even still, we should not live in fear. We shouldn't live in fear of the uncontrollable. We shouldn't react. We should be making a plan that is in tune to our lives. We should allow the things that are outside of our control to be things on our mind, but we should focus on the things that are under our control. And so I think that the thing that is poignant, particularly with this election, is that both candidates had very different perspectives on taxes. So with that being said, what should we be thinking about from a tax perspective going forward now that these results are in, Nick?
Yeah. Well, look, obviously you want to be in a position where you're able to maximize the income that you're able to be taking each and every year while minimizing the impact that it's going to have on you from a tax standpoint. And this is where, again, our clients, Jake, are no longer in that phase of life where they're just putting money into accounts and, maximizing their deductions. Of course, you want to maximize your deductions, but our clients are actively, in most cases, taking money out of these accounts. And that's where income tax, you really need to have a plan in place for, because it impacts your Medicare. It impacts the take home on your Social Security, the take home on your pension, all these things, your health insurance premiums, right? So really just having a very good plan in place as far as the buckets that you have. Do they live in different taxable worlds? Can you structure which accounts you're going to be taking money out of when you need it and the tax implications of doing so? Because we don't know what the market's doing. Sure, we maybe have a little better indication now of where tax rates are going to be, but what we know is that our clients need to get their hands on money. And they need that money, whether taxes are high, whether taxes are low, whether the market's up, whether the market's down. So the value of a well thought out plan where you've got the diversified portfolio, as you mentioned, you don't just have all your money doing one thing, but you also don't have all your money in one taxable world. So as far as strategies, we're talking a lot about Roth conversion planning right now. We're talking a lot about tax efficient gifting strategies right now. We're even talking about implementing tax leveraged vehicles, whether they're insurance backed products or even government issued products like municipal bonds or things like that, right? So implementing these tax advantaged vehicles within taxable accounts just as a way to mitigate the tax implications for our clients. So again, you know this as well as I know this. I mean, the work we do for our clients is so much more than just investment management. It's really tax and income planning. And of course, we have those conversations about the estate planning and the overall, investment management as well. But I think it just drives the value. Having a plan is paramount to success in retirement.
100%. Whether tax planning is, I'm leading up to retirement and I'm thinking about where I'm adding money into in retirement accounts, which pre-tax versus Roth, whether it be in retirement, and am I executing Roth conversions? Am I utilizing qualified charitable distributions? Am I buying and holding so that one day my kids can get a step up in basis? Am I choosing investment vehicles that create tax-free income like municipal bonds? I think that it's important for the listeners to know, as I just threw out a ton of jargon, a ton of specifics. What's most important is that you're addressing it and that you're consulting with your tax professional, whether it be your financial planner in concert with your tax preparer or CPA or something in the middle, having a plan. And so I think as we close out today, I think it's so important that we provide a resource that I think is poignant for this time. We have a booklet we call the Are You Paying Too Much in Taxes booklet. And if folks want to get their hands on that before we leave today, I want to give them an opportunity. You can text the word offer, OFFER, to our number at 800-757-0436. Again, that's the word offer to 800-757-0436. You'll find that information in our show notes as well. Well, again, thank you for tuning in to the Money Wisdom podcast powered by Johnson Brunetti. This is my friend and colleague, Nick Colantuono, and I am Jake Dozer. We'll see you next time.
Investment advisory services offered through JB Capital LLC. Insurance products offered through JN Financial LLC.